I'm telling you that I came in here today, and it appears that Greg Cote and Stugotz have arrived at done with Jason Kelce. They didn't think that he should have gone out with a 40-minute retirement speech. A lot of people were made emotional by that. I was made emotional by that. I missed my brother watching Travis cry because his brother was crying. But Stugotz and Greg Cote, it feels like, are done with the Jason Kelce experience.
I mean, it's a center. He took 45 to 50 minutes to give a retirement speech. It was a Hall of Fame speech. He thanked his band coach. I mean, what are we doing? And poor Brian Kelly, because he pointed out a part of his career where Brian Kelly became his college coach. And he says, you know, Brian Kelly, that was a big move, him becoming my college coach, not because of Brian Kelly, but because of a strength and conditioning coach that Brian Kelly brought with him. I felt terrible.
He did say not because of Brian Kelly. He did point that out while thanking
went out of his way.
His band coach.
It was a bit much, Jason. It was a bit much. I mean, dying Lou Gehrig took a half a minute to give one of the most famous speeches in the history of sports by saying he's the luckiest man on earth.
Yep.
You know, Jason Kelce is taking almost an hour to give his own living eulogy. It was just, I thought it was a little weird, a little the ultimate look at me, Louie. You know, great career, congrats. Look at me, take 7-8 minutes. Be concise.
Save something for the Hall of Fame speech. I'll also say this about Lou Gehrig, okay? That thing would have been 15 seconds, wrapped up in 15 seconds had he not taken a couple of pauses because he was emotional.
Right.
He was dying.
Yeah.
Yes.
And imagine Jason Kelce's Canton speech. It's going to take 2 days. Yeah. It's going to be like a 4-part miniseries. His Canton speach.
I think if anything, you wait to vote for him, right? Because you're like, we can't do it this year.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because you don't want to have to endure that monologue by him. It's unbelievable.
Put it on the poll, Juju, at LeBatard Show. Is Jason Kelce's Canton speech going to be a 4-part miniseries? At LeBatard Show. This isn't the way I thought I would have this going today. It was. I thought it was a nice moment. It's always nice to get, if you're an offensive lineman, to see them get shine. I do imagine all the other offensive linemen are confused and jealous. About
Creed Humphrey. I mean, can you imagine what he is thinking right now? The band coach who taught him how to toot his own horn. I mean,
okay, I want to ask you guys who's the most famous offensive lineman ever. I want to ask you who's the most famous center ever. And I also want to ask you who's the most beloved athlete in Philadelphia history by consensus, because people like Allen Iverson were polarizing. They weren't by consensus. I think Dr. J might have been by consensus popular. Chase Utley. I may have that wrong, though, because Dr. J always handled himself with a great deal of class, but being black at that time in America, or at any time in America, isn't exactly the most fun experience as an athlete.
Is Iverson in that conversation?
I mean, I just put him in that conversation.
He has to be in that conversation,
But I said
right?
he's polarizing.
It's a little bit ridiculous, but a fictional athlete, Rocky.
Yeah. It's not that ridiculous. Put it on the poll, please,
Statue.
Juju, at LeBatard Show. Most beloved Philadelphia athlete ever. Dr. J, Allen Iverson, Jason Kelce, Chase Utley.
This is low-key a sad list when a fictional character is your top athlete.
What is Chase Utley doing on this list?
Right.
He was very popular.
Was so popular.
How about Reggie White? I mean, he's probably in that conversation, no?
Mike Schmidt. He was really popular.
The fact that we're putting Chase Utley in the same conversation with Allen Iverson is crazy.
I think you should put Bobby Clark up there, too.
I think you're underestimating how famous Chase Utley was and how beloved he was by that team and by that fan base.
I mean, if we're saying that about him, we could say that about any all-star for any team.
No, he responded to Matt's
different.
letter.
What was your guys' reaction yesterday to the most famous center? And answer my question here, because I guess John Madden would be the...
I think Jason Kelce, and this may be hyperbolic, is the most famous both center and maybe offensive lineman ever. The people that I was trying to pull are guys like Madden and Deerdorf, guys that became famous because they just stayed around the game and were calling important games later in their career.
He's famous while playing, yes. Yeah, it's a big difference. You're right.
Yeah,
Madden became famous after he retired.
The next level is just infamy. in which Richie Incognito gets in the conversation.
I have never seen an offensive lineman get the send-off I saw yesterday. That is a first for me in all the time I have covered sports, never mind Hall of Famers. But a center? A center's among the most anonymous positions that you can find anywhere in football. Like when I ask you, the most famous centers ever, do I have to go back to Mike Webster and Dwight Stevenson?
Yes.
And I know the podcast and the Taylor Swift thing certainly helps, but I think Jason Kelce might have been in this conversation last year before any of this entered the conversation.
I'm looking up most famous centers here. Jim Ringo from way back in the day, Alex Mack. A lot of names I've never even heard of, and I'm old. Dermontti Dawson.
Wow, he was
Let's
good.
see. Let's see. Mike Webster. Dwight Stevenson is number 4. Number 3, Mel Hine. Love you, Heine. Chuck Bednarik.
Yeah.
I think he was a Philly guy too. And then number 1 is Jim Otto, a Miami Hurricane, I believe. How about that? Number 1 all time.
For a long time when I was a kid, I thought Tim Ruddy was Rudy because he went to Notre Dame.
Right. Makes sense.